You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? All right, hold on. Here we go.
What's going on, everyone? It's the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Travis Brown with the Eagle, myaggienation.com. Also with Alex Miller of the Eagle. It's a special week this week. It's a very important week in the tradition of Texas A&M and Texas A&M athletics, with January 2nd being the 100-year anniversary of the 12th man, E. King Gill, coming down from the press box and standing on the sidelines, standing ready, just like the 12th man student section does for every A&M football game. Alex, I know we at the Eagle are putting together a special section coming in, or a special little layout coming out for this Sunday's paper on the 100-year anniversary. We've talked to a lot of different people surrounding A&M athletics and the tradition, between Alex, myself, and Robert Cessna. Alex, you're kind of doing the main feature story for A1. Why don't, for those who might not have listened, who might not be young, who have only heard it through passing, give us a little refresher on the story of E. King Gill and how he became the 12th man.
Yeah, so, as many know, this happened during the 1922 Dixie Classic in Dallas between Texas A&M and Center College, the precursor of what is now known as the Cotton Bowl. And the Aggies, they came to the game with less than 20 players available. And throughout the first half, it was a very physical game, and the Aggies sustained a lot of injuries. And so toward the end of the first half, they weren't going to have enough players to field 11 men on the field. And there was a rule at the time that if you didn't have the minimum players needed to field a team, that you would have to forfeit the game. And so E. King Gill, he had been a reserve on the football team, but in a book that John Adams wrote that I've been able to write a story on for Sunday's paper, kind of goes into a lot of the details of how the game unfolded and how E. King Gill became part of this tradition and inspired the tradition throughout the years. And, really details how, Gill was a sophomore on the football team, but had opted out at the end of the season in late fall under the approval of some coaches to prepare for the upcoming basketball season. In January, Gill was a really tall man, 6'3", 6'4", and was going to be a star center and forward for the Aggie basketball team. And he was not on the roster for that game, but as we come to find out, he was in the press box spotting for a well-known sports writer when all these players started getting hurt. And then all of a sudden, Dana X Bible, A&M's coach, one of the legendary coaches in the early 1900s, he kind of waves up to the press box saying, "Hey, come here." And E. King Gill later would say he knew exactly what was going on. And so he went down to the sideline. They raised a few blankets up. He gets the uniform of a guy named Heine Weir, who had broken his leg, I believe, in the first half. He puts on his uniform. Heine Weir gets E. King Gill's street clothes. And he stands ready on the sideline, ready to go in if the team needed him. E. King Gill, of course, he does not actually go into the game, but he stood ready in case the Aggies needed them. And A&M, of course, they come away with what is really an upset victory over what had become one of the nation's premier programs at the time, Center College, 22-14. And so in the years since, that's kind of led to the formation of this 12th man tradition, kind of the identity of this A&M student body, and what's led to A&M students standing for the entire length of home football games in memory and kind of the spirit of they're standing ready to go if the team needed them.
So in preparation for this, well, in recent history, the way that's manifested itself back on the football field, and it's differed from coach to coach, whether that be a 12th man kickoff team, which was a kickoff team completely comprised of walk-ons. Jackie Sherrill kind of introduced that. And then it moved on to kind of the more modern look of that, which is one player who wears the number 12 is selected by the coaching staff, typically a walk-on or someone of that kind of same ilk. And is the representation of E. King Gill and the student body in those regards by wearing the number 12. And I got to talk to a bunch of those players who have worn 12 over the last several years. And I think it was I think it was John Ray who said, and it was very interesting. He said the part that stuck out to him about the E. King Gill story was the fact that he didn't go in. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of times, especially early on this tradition of the 12th man and who's wearing 12, that was a guy who was just in on the kickoff team, if anything else. And he was guys on the scout team who were fighting to be able to go in. And sometimes they didn't go in. But a lot of times, and especially in recent history, when you look at like guys like Cullen Gillaspia and Connor Choate, they're in a decent amount of time and kind of are catalysts to get the crowd fired up and representation of all of that. So, Alex, I know you grew up down here. You went to A&M. What are some of your favorite memories when it comes to the 12th man player or the 12th man kickoff team? That was probably a little bit before your time. But when you think back, what are some of those favorite memories?
Yeah, I really started watching A&M football in the mid 2000s, and one of the very first games I can vividly remember going to, A&M played Fresno State. I think it was in 2007. They ended up beating Fresno State in triple overtime, and what was crazy about that game, it was an 11 a.m. game in September. It was blistering hot. I mean, over 100 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, classic Texas humidity, and as the game wore on, it looked like A&M had a commanding lead. And so there were quite a few people who had left the game. And so Fresno State ends up forcing overtime. And what was neat about that was that the student section was not all the way full. And so as the overtimes progressed, when they would be on one side of the field for the end zone or going into the end zone, the students would migrate to that side of the stands. And as it went into second overtime, they would all walk all the way down to the other end of the stands to watch it. And they did it again for that third overtime, and A&M ultimately ends up winning the game. But very, very interesting to see this migration, in particularly the student section, it kind of embodying that 12th man tradition. You think about Colin Gillaspia, being he was the 12th man when I was a student at A&M and got to cover the football team. And you think about in 2017 when A&M was playing Alabama, he blocks a punt for the touchdown, or I think it was a safety actually. He blocks a punt on the Alabama punter. It goes out of the end zone for a safety. The crowd goes nuts. A&M, of course, ends up losing the game. But that was kind of the moment where Colin Gillaspia, really starts cementing himself into 12th man lore. And then, 2 years later, or the next year, I should say, moving to fullback and then getting to actually get some playing time. And then in his last game as 12th man, scoring that touchdown, becoming the first 12th man to score a touchdown on offense. And then, ultimately becoming the first 12th man to be drafted in the NFL draft. I mean, that was very monumental when you think about a guy that was a walk-on player, really had to earn his way through, made a lot of plays during special teams, through a coaching change when Jimbo Fisher comes in, kind of gets his moment to shine, and getting to cover Colin, great guy to talk with, and just getting to see him succeed in that way. There's been a number of great games at Kyle Field that I've been able to see throughout the years. I wasn't at the game when A&M played Nebraska 9-6 back in 2010, but I mean, at the time, it was just attended game in Kyle Field history, and just the crowd was just going nuts. And A&M wins a slugfest 9-6. I mean, there's been some really, really good moments over the years, and in times where you see the crowd really get into the game and affect the game. I mean, we certainly saw that this fall when A&M beat Alabama at home. The crowd, I mean, that was the most energized I'd seen Kyle Field in years, and certainly played a role in A&M finding a way to upset Alabama. You think about the 7 overtime game against LSU. I mean, Travis, you've been there for several of these games that I'm mentioning, but those are definitely some of the memories that come to mind. And some things that I didn't get to mention about the original 12th man story. This is pretty fascinating to see how this all kind of unraveled. And I got to write about it in the story on the book that John Adams wrote. It's called Standing Ready, the Golden Era of Texas Aggie Football, the beginning of the 12th man tradition. You can find it in Sunday's paper. He notes how he was a member of the football team and got approval of the coaches to go and start practicing for the upcoming Southwest Conference basketball season that started in January. And originally, E. King Gill wasn't even planning to go to the Dixie Classic, but being from Dallas, he hitchhikes his way all the way up to Dallas on New Year's Eve, which happened to be his birthday by chance, stays at his parents' house. And the other issue was when he got there, he realized he needed $3 to pay for a ticket to get into the game, and he had no money. So what's he do? He waits for the team to get to the stadium. He takes a taxi cab over there, sneaks into the stadium with the rest of the team, just kind of walks in with them, kind of like, hey, I'm supposed to be here kind of deal. And that's when he's standing on the sidelines before the game, and Jinx Tucker, the legendary sports writer from the Waco area, he comes up to someone asking if he can have a spotter up in the press box, and somebody notes, hey, E. King Gill, like, he's not playing, just take him. And that's how he ends up in the press box. And then as the story goes, he gets called down, he stands ready, doesn't go into the game. But certainly an iconic moment in A&M history. And what's interesting too is that this was a really big win for the A&M football team when you think about it. Center College had become one of the nation's top teams. I mean, they were undefeated 10-0. This is pre-polls, but had there been polls, this would probably have been the number one team in the country. Had really just dominated every single person that they had played, and had potentially kind of passed up a Rose Bowl bid to play in the Rose Bowl in favor of playing in this game in Dallas. And certainly was big news across the country, as John Adams said, over the next week or so, knowing that A&M had beat this team that had really come to become the likes of what we see today, maybe as like the Alabamas of the world. So certainly a unique story from the beginning, and A&M has really clung on to this tradition, and it's definitely unique and special to A&M and the school, and they've really found ways to highlight that through the years in different ways, and have allowed the tradition to evolve in a number of different ways.
Sure. The interesting thing about the more recent manifestation of the 12th man with players wearing the number 12 is that, and things that I learned in doing some of this project, is that back in the Dennis Francione, Mike Sherman era, at times it was a week-to-week honor bestowed upon players. And then it kind of morphed into the more modern with Kevin Sumlin and with Jimbo Fisher, the one guy for one season. It went back and forth with that, with both Sherman and with R.C. Slocum as well. But that talking to some of these guys who were there when it was a week-to-week battle was really interesting, because there was 2 or 3 or 4 guys who were kind of always in the running for it, and they were working 1, 2, 3 weeks at a time just to try to get that little bit of an edge. So not only get the number 12, but maybe even work their way into the depth chart, and then the number 12 might be passed off to the next guy. And some of these guys were roommates, and they were battling it out. And so there was this kind of really unique little scout team battle that happened week to week to help give the guys looks that guy would be designated 12th man. And that's another aspect of it that you don't necessarily see in today's picking of the 12th man that was really unique and special to some of these guys. So let's get into a few of these comments. For this feature, I talked to CJ Jones, Blake Kendrick, Nathan Hale, John Ray, Nick LaMantia, Connor Choate, Cullen Gillaspia, and Braden White. And let's start with the man we talked about earlier, kind of the epitome of 12th man when you're talking about the modern version, and that is Colin Gillespie. What did being the 12th man mean to you, and what does that tradition as A&M mean to you as well?
Really, it was just one of the most prestigious honors that of my life, to be able to represent the student body in such great tradition on the football field was really an experience that it's invaluable. To get to wear the number 12 and, get to look up and see home of the 12th man, you kind of carry a bigger weight on your back than just playing for yourself. You're playing for something that's bigger than yourself. I think it's one of the best traditions in college football. It really was just an honor that I didn't take lightly, and tried to, play with that same energy every single day, and not every single day, but in every game and everything that I did, because it's, at A&M, it's home of the 12th man, and it's not something to be taken lightly. It's something to wear with honor and honor the people before you and the ones that'll come after.
Yeah. Is it the E. King Gill story part of it? How special is that part of it, and how much do you when you kind of get that honor, do you learn about him and how you can best exemplify that part of the story as well?
For sure. I think, you hear the story and you hear about how he stood there the entire game. And I think that, 100 years later, it speaks volumes about the culture at A&M and the rich tradition and history that goes on there. The entire, student section stands the entire game. If they're willing to do that, you got to be willing to go out there and play the entire game. I went to a game in high school and stood in the student section, and I can tell you it is not fun to stand for 4 hours. So, really learning about the story and seeing those traditions in every day at A&M and every game day really just kind of shows you the value of what you're doing and what you're representing. It's, like I said, it's not to be taken lightly.
For sure. And then final question, just when you think back as your time as the 12th man, what's your favorite story as that exemplifies or is part of being the 12th man?
I really just think even to this day, people will still, tweet at me or call me, see me in public and refer to me as the 12th man. And, I always try to remind them it's not about me. It's more about the tradition and the history of the school. But just to kind of see the way that people in the Texas A&M community value that number and that tradition. I have people tell me all the time they watched the Gilly film and it brought them to tears, and you don't really understand the impact that you have on people while you're wearing that jersey at the time. Like when you look back and hear all the things that not only myself but the people before me and the people who've come after me have helped people through hard times. I think it's just super heartwarming, and it's a good feeling to know that you've made an impact in other people's lives and brought them joy. And I think by doing that, you kind of honor, the number 12 and the history of the 12th man and the legend of E. King Gill.
Mm-hmm. And then do you have a favorite on-field moment?
Favorite on the field moments. I think probably one of the best moments was, as a team win, getting to wear that number, beating Tennessee or beating Kentucky at home. Both of those were huge deals, or the 7 overtime game. But I think probably a personal moment would be probably blocking the punt against Alabama or scoring the touchdown. Mm-hmm. So it kind of goes either way. You can't really beat 7 overtimes to beat LSU for the first time, and since we've been in the SEC, and kind of in my last game on Kyle Field that way. I never really thought that I'd be in a game where people were rushing the field. So that was definitely a super cool experience.
And next we'll hear from current 12th man Connor Choate. What does it mean to you to be the 12th man?
Well, it's still surreal how I'm in this position, but it's especially on the 100th year anniversary. It's really special, and I think throughout the season, you saw the 12th man affect a lot of games, such as like the Auburn one and the Alabama game one, which were 2 big games during this season. So they always show up for every game, but being the 12th man is definitely special. And the more time goes on and passes, I see that how much it means to have such an honor to wear that jersey. So yeah, it's just an incredible honor, and I'm super fortunate.
When you think back on and you reflect on the whole E. King Gill story and how it kind of started, what parts of that story resonate with you the most, or come to mind the most when you think of it, or it's told again?
Well, honestly, we almost had to have an E.K. Gill type of thing with the Gator Bowl, but I would have loved to see that. But it was, when I think about the E.K. Gill story, it's kind of, I think, reflected in the students and the fan base at games, how they're always into it, no matter, the score or anything. It's just, it literally feels like an extra, factor and, advantage that we have, and how they show up every game is just incredible. So I think it's more reflected in the whole fan base, rather than just one person or, one team. I think it's kind of just a collective group of people that reflect it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And when you think back on this year and being the 12th man, what's the strongest memory or the most special memory that sticks out in relation to being the 12th man?
I would have to say probably just like how the 12th man helped us out a lot in the Alabama game. Snapping the game-winning field goal was probably a great way to cap it off, especially it being the 100th year anniversary, and, just being able to really help my team and, bring a good win to the fan base, as a whole team, and just kind of do my part. So I think that's what being a 12 man is about, just, helping out when you can. You don't know when your number's going to be called, just like E.K. Gill didn't know, and so I think it's kind of reflective in that.
Yeah. And then finally, did you ever get a hang of, or did the nerves ever subside with running the flag out?
Yes. So the first time we did like a test run before the first game, because I didn't know what that was about. I was never at the front of the run out of the tunnel ever in my prior years, the past 2 years. So it was kind of new territory, but what I didn't even think about was hitting the goalpost. Mm-hmm. So when we ran the dry run, and like it was just like the day or 2 days before the game, and I was like running, and I hit the top of the goalpost. I was like, oh no! Like I'm be thinking about that during like the first run out against Kent State. So honestly, I wasn't even nervous about the game. I was really just worried about the flag, because there's like, this is a first impression, man. Like, if you hit this flag on the goalpost, fall, and knock over Coach Fisher to start the season off, this is the first time they've seen us this season. Like, people are going to be so superstitious and be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a horrible season. But thank God I didn't do that. The dry run definitely helped. It took a couple tries, but I always go to the right and just hold the flag down until I get past the goalpost, just to make sure nothing crazy happens.
Yeah. What is that moment like? Once you get past the goalposts and you hear the crowd with that flag, how special is that?
Oh man, it's just like goosebumps. It's like an out of body experience every time. Just the roar, like going crazy. Everybody like rolling their towels, throwing their towels, places going nuts. No matter who we play. So it's always just crazy coming out of the smoke, and you just see like 100,000 people, and you're like, wow. So it's honestly just breathtaking. I can't believe I'm in this position to be able to do that. So, because when I was in high school, being some horrible JV tight end, I never thought I'd be able to have the privilege to do this. So it's a big blessing that I get to be able to do that and, lead the team out.
And next we'll hear from Nick LaMantia, who wore number 12 from 2006 to 2008.
Looking back, I think it just meant an opportunity. It meant an opportunity to play, and it meant an opportunity. When I was playing, the coaches awarded it every week, so it was a lot different. They chose a new player every week. It could be, in a season, it could be 12 different people in a week. So if you got it, it meant a lot. You got to represent the student body, and and, you know, give you your opportunity to play, to showcase what you could do, you know? So I think it meant a lot of things. And emotionally, you saw how it meant stuff to the student body. And then from a football standpoint, I think you looked at it as an opportunity to showcase what your abilities are. And showcase that, hey, you know what, I want to be the 12th man, and I also want to play. You know, so for a lot of people, I think they should view it as a stepping stone, just to being on that travel squad or that 2-deep roster. Is the way I always looked at it. You know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How many times were you, or how many weeks, I guess, were you 12th man off the top of your head?
I think they broke my record. I think Sam or Colin broke my record. I don't know, probably 30-something, 30, 35, 33, 36. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, they broke. Someone told me about it. They tweeted it or something and sent me a picture back when I think Sam was the one that broke it, and then Colin, or one of the two. I don't know who broke it, Sam or Colin broke it.
And Colin tied it, if I'm not.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. And then with Coach Francione, he awarded it every week, and then Coach Sherman stayed with that. And then Coach Sherman told me, he said, you know, which was what I always wanted it to be. He's like, you know, Nick, you're no longer 12, you're 44, right? And I need you on this. You know, I need you to be starting this week or do other stuff. You know, so for me, it was a great opportunity. I loved it. First time I ever got to do it. I got to do it on my mom's birthday as a freshman or a sophomore, whatever. I don't remember what age it was, and that was a big deal. So that's cool.
Yeah, well, that might dovetail into one of my other questions real nicely. What was your favorite moment while wearing 12?
It was either when we beat Texas 12-7 or 12-6 back in 2000 and 6 or 5. I don't remember which. We beat Texas 12-6 in Austin, or the first time I ever got to wear it, my best friend, Andrew Hall, he was in the Corps. He actually represented Reveille, and he got to text my mom, and I wore it against the Citadel on my freshman year, sophomore year. Those are probably, and it was her birthday that day. So probably my mom would probably be the most memorable one, and then the second most would be beating Texas, wearing 12 and beating them. It was who was it? It was, what's the quarterback's name? McCoy.
Colt McCoy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was Stephen McGee had a great game. Jaworski Lane had a great game. Mike Goodson, all those guys did an amazing job.
Yeah, awesome. When you think back of the original E. King Gill story, and when you hear that, what parts of that story resonated with you the most, and maybe you brought to 12th man, or just resonated with you the most when you hear that story?
You know, it's for me, it's pretty simple. He was ready, right? You know, he was ready to do anything. And I think you can see that across all the people that have really worn 12th man. They whether they chose to or not, or whether it was because of E. King Gill, I don't know. But you look at people, myself, I switched from linebacker to fullback because Coach Fran asked me, right? He asked me, he's like, hey, Nick, you want to play fullback? I need somebody because I don't have anybody on the 2 deep. And I was like, well, yeah, Coach, of course. And I played linebacker my whole life. I never played any other position. And so I moved to fullback, and then the week after that, you know, Chris goes down, and then starting the next 2 games. And I mean, I think that was just one, it's an opportunity to play more. But 2, I think John Ray did the same thing. He moved around from defensive back and safety and stuff like that. I think Colin did the same thing. Blake Kendrick was somebody that I looked up to a lot. He was an amazing athlete. So was John Ray, amazing athlete. And they set the standard of what it's like. And so I think when you see those guys, they were willing to do whatever coach asked, you know, for the team. And I think that's, you know, just kind of, like I said, regardless if it was their choice or not, or what they meant to do or intended from E. King Gill's story, it showcased just the kind of person they were. You know, they just wanted to do anything for the team, whatever made the team better, you know, from doing only special teams at kickoff, or if they said, hey, we need you to play fullback this week, can you do it? Or we need you to play linebacker, or we need you to play secondary, or can you cover on punt team? Yeah, Coach, I got it. You know, not a problem. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that was just the mentality, and it's just kind of stayed through.
Braden White had the task of wearing number 12 after Cullen Gillaspia. Here's what he had to say about the honor. What did it mean to you to be the 12 man and serve in that role for when you did?
Honestly, I would say it was probably the biggest honor of my lifetime. just because when I first went to A&M, I really knew nothing about the tradition or the honor and what it meant to wear number 12. And so being able to see Colin Gillaspia get awarded number 12 and be able to see him be the 12th man and fully understand and realize all that it means, not only to the team, but then also the entire university. It was something that I really wanted to pursue and hopefully one day do myself. And so just through all my hard work and understanding what it meant to everyone to then be able to do it in my fourth and fifth year, it was something that showed a lot of hard work pay off and a lot of commitment, a lot of time. But then also just knowing that I had the trust of my teammates, my coaches, and then the entire university. It was something that I definitely will never forget, and something that has forever changed my life.
Yeah. In what ways do you feel like it's changed your life, especially now that you're away from the program?
I'd say just really wearing number 12 gave me a true understanding and a true passion and love for what the entire university represents. And that's just being a part of something bigger than yourself. And so for me, it was understanding that no matter who's the 12th man on the football team, like I said, Colin, he did it differently from me. I did it differently from him. Then now Connor Choate, he's doing it differently from the two of us. Just knowing that it's bringing whoever you are and applying it to the bigger whole that you're a part of. And so with that, it's being there ready for something bigger than yourself. And so I was always ready to do that. I told Connor Choate, same thing, just be yourself and know that you're doing something that is way beyond anything that's for your own good. It's for something that is good for the entire university, for the entire team. And that's really what's worthwhile.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When you kind of think back on the story of E. King Gill and what happened 100 years ago, what parts of that story resonate with you?
Oh man, I guess just knowing that if something lasts for that long, it's something truly powerful. And so in today's world, whether it's like a business, you see a business last more than 100 years, they're doing something right. And so, the culture there, it's spot on. The people that are part of it, they're doing an amazing job. And to know that a tradition lasted for that long, it's powerful. And so starting with E. King Gill, I can't really even imagine what was going through his mind during that game, just to know that he was there, not even expect it. And so nowadays we hear the story and we're like, oh yeah, that's the tradition of the 12th man. That's how it all started. But I mean, to kind of put yourself in his shoes, knowing that he's just up there, I mean, not really expecting to go into the game. And then he went down there ready. That's something that's really incredible. And it's inspiring towards me. It was inspiring towards me to just stay ready whenever I was called upon. Didn't know when that would be, but just knowing that I was ready at all times, that was something that I really carried with me.
For sure. And then what was your favorite memory as being the 12th man?
Oh man, my favorite memory. So I would say, honestly, it's hard to tie it down to one memory, just because, I mean, you meet so many great people and you go through so many great experiences. And those are the things that I really will carry with me and have impacted my life tremendously. But I'd say, as far as one specific memory, just, I guess, the day I was named number 12, that was something that it really just sent chills through my body, because to see the excitement through my teammates' faces and to hear Coach Fisher call out my name, it was something that I guess I worked towards it, but then I didn't know if or when it would happen. And to finally hear him say my name and then see the excitement on all my teammates' faces, it was an incredible feeling and something that I really can't even describe, but it's a memory that I'll remember forever.
And finally, we'll hear from John Ray, who wore number 12 from 2004 to 2005.
Yeah, I mean, so first and foremost, my goal, my dream was to play football at Texas A&M. And so the fact that I was able to play football at such a high level at such an awesome school, and then to represent the 12th man and be a part of that tradition was really amazing. Not just from a football perspective, just as a kind of, what the 12th man represents as a whole, and what A&M represents as kind of like next man up, and kind of take on any type of responsibility that A&M always has, as far as the armed forces and the Corps of Cadets, and it kind of seems A&M always seems to take on that challenge and kind of next guy up. So it was really an awesome honor, and something I'll always cherish.
Yeah. When you look back and you've heard the E. King Gill story, and you kind of think back on that, what parts of that original origin story always resonated with you the most?
I think it's actually that he didn't actually play. But again, just I think it's the overall A&M spirit of, hey, our guys are down, we need some help. And A&M fans and A&M alumni and A&M students are always there to support their team and to support their school. So it's a very unique story that not many schools have anything remotely close to. So just really awesome from the history of Texas A&M, where we came from as a military school, and just the fact that a guy in the stands would say, "Hey, put me in if you need me."
And what stands out to you as your favorite memory while wearing number 12?
Oh man, that's very hard. I definitely think the first time I ever ran down the field is one of those moments you can't forget, because you think you're ready for the moment and you're completely not. You're not at all. But we had a lot of great moments. I don't know if I can actually pick one, but I'd say definitely the first time. And I actually, I played before I wore the 12th man, so I'd been on the field, but still when you wear 12, it adds a whole nother level of responsibility. And that everyone's watching you. That you've got all eyes on you.
So that'll do it for this week's edition of the My Aggie Nation podcast. Be sure to pick up Sunday, January 2nd's edition of The Eagle to see all the special content we have on the 100-year anniversary of the 12th man. So, for Alex Miller, I'm Travis Brown. This is the My Aggie Nation podcast, and we'll see you next week.
It seems like every day, everything just has a way to burst at the seams. But if we don't watch what we're doing, our hearts will get ruined by silly things. Good love ain't easy, girl, we know that's true. And if we wanna keep it, we gotta watch everything that we do, yeah. Don't wanna make sure, my baby, make sure you're sticking with me. Don't want